Well, back in the 1960s, probably around 1963, 1964, I was about 16 years old, I guess, 17. And we had a football coach at Prairie City High School. That's where I went to high school. And he was a football coach. I loved that guy. He just was an inspiration, helped me a lot in my younger years. He was a gifted athlete, coach. So anyway, at the end of football season one year, he invited all of us that was on the football team to come down to his place that he lived, and they had an big old apple tree there in his yard. He says, the apples are ready to be picked. You guys want to come down there and pick apples? And I've got a squeezer, and we can squeeze all those apples and get apple juice out of them. You ever done that? No, I've never done that. Okay, that sounded kind of interesting. So I went down there with some of the other guys, and we picked apples and squeezed apples, and I got about a gallon of juice, apple juice, as most of the guys got about that, as I remember. And so about that time, there was a guy in Bates, Oregon, excuse me, he was a couple years older than I was, and he had made some Applejack wine. He had learned how to take apple juice and turn it into wine. And he wouldn't tell anybody how he did it. At least he wouldn't tell me. Now, these are the old days, remember? I wasn't a Christian back, young boy, like, so take that into consideration here. But we couldn't get alcohol. In those days, there was no drugs, there wasn't such thing as marijuana and pills and mushrooms. There was nothing to take other than stealing some alcohol from an adult, and that was never easy to do. Alcohol was tough to get, and I wanted to experiment like so many other young ragtag boys, and so anyway, I thought, I'm going to take that gallon of apple juice. Somebody said, well, you just put in some yeast, mix with it, and depending on whether you want sweet wine or not, you don't even have to add sugar, but you can add a little sugar, and that'll increase the alcohol content of it. So I took the apple juice and poured some sugar in there and poured some yeast. And so now it's going to ferment, right? So then I taped the cap on really tight so contaminants wouldn't get in there, and took it in the back pantry room, a little small pantry my mother had, and put it in there, set it on top of a freezer in there, and forgot about it. Somebody had said it takes a few weeks for it to ferment before you start getting alcohol, so wait until it's done, fermenting, and then it's time to drink it. Okay, that sounded easy enough to do, so I did. And then, boy, oh boy, money was so hard to come by up there in this little logging community where I lived, and there was just no place you could get a job and earn money. And nobody had money. To speak of kids, it was tough to get money. And so I thought, maybe I can start a little business of moonshining, glamorized moonshining. Maybe I can make wine and sell it to some of my buddies, make a little extra pocket money. Well, shoot, why not? So I saved and scrimped and did everything I could to come up with enough money to go into John Day and buy 10 1-gallon jugs of apple juice. I don't remember whether it was apple juice now or apple cider, but it didn't make any difference. So I'm going to buy 10 of those, going to ferment those up, and then sell those for whatever I can sell them for and make a profit. So So that's what I did, but I couldn't get caught at it, of course. My parents didn't need to know what I was doing. No one needed to know what I was doing. So I took those 10-gallon jugs of apple juice up into the mountain area, along an old dirt 2-track up to the old junkyard up out of town, and right out in the middle where nobody would expect such a thing to happen, and found a little pothole off the road where nobody would be, not really, no reason to be out there, and put those 10 jugs there in that pothole, and poured the yeast in it, and poured some extra sugar in it, and taped them babies up tight so air couldn't get at it, and off I went. Well, some days went by. Maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, I don't remember exactly now, maybe a little longer than that. And I come home from school one night, and Mom says, what did you have in that back room in there? I said, well, what do you mean? Of course, I knew what she meant, but I was playing ignorant, right? She said, well, you go in there and take a look. Smells like a brewery in there. Something blew up. That gallon of apple juice you had in there, that blew up, and it's all over the walls. The glass is broken every place. You go clean that mess up, clean the walls up. Don't be doing that again. I said, oh, gee, wow, I don't know how that happened. All right. She didn't know. She had no clue. If she had a clue, she'd have let on. I don't think she knew quite what had happened. But anyway, boy, I did. I went in there, and it was the biggest mess. That stuff had blown up over the walls and ceilings and stained things, and I don't know how long it had been in there broke. Probably just a day, but glass was all over the floor and all over the place. Cleaned that mess up, and I thought, oh my gosh. You know, I wonder if I wasn't supposed to tape that lid on. I thought, I gotta get up there and take a look at my 10-gallon jugs at my moonshine still area, you know, and see, you know, if they've blown up. If they haven't, I gotta get the tape off them caps and come up with a way so pressure won't blow those up. Well, I beat it up there. Now, as I'm approaching through the woods, open woods, it's not thick in there, you know, open woods. I get within, I don't know, 20, 30 yards from that pit out in the middle of the ground, nowhere there, and I can see a lot of activity over the top of that pothole, and I thought, oh no, I think those are bugs. So I got closer, and sure enough, thousands and thousands of flies and bees and I don't know, probably mosquitoes and every kind of bug in that country. Well, I looked down into the pothole. All 10 jugs had exploded. Glass everywhere. And it was nothing but froth and foam at the bottom of that pit. And some of it, of course, had seeped into the ground, but a lot of it was still there. And these bugs were drinking all that foam, or any liquid they could get. And they were stone drunk. I got to looking, they were flying into each other. They were going kamikaze, you know. It was just, my heart sank, and I was so upset at myself, but it was so funny. Just watch those crazy bugs, drunk, you know, flying around there, and so that ended my bootleg business. I decided this is not the way to spend hard-earned money, and so I stopped doing that. Now, I did learn later that you have hoses, you know, and bubblers and different devices that you can stick down into there and let the carbon dioxide gas escape and not let your brew get contaminated. But I don't want to mess with all that. Anyway, well, those crazy things you do as kids, and I just thought I'd share that. So, anyhow.